The song goes, walk in your trap and take over your trap. And that's exactly what the Houston Cougars have done to the Big 12 Conference.
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs, daily podcast all about your Houston Cougars and your Big 12 champion Houston Cougars at that. I'm your Locked On Coogs host, Parker Ainsworth, to break down all things Cougs. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater can stop by, I don't know why you'd be a hater here on this moment in particular, but thank you for making us your first, second, third, whatever listen to the day it is, as we're live post-game after Houston's big win over Arizona in the Big 12 Tournament Championship game. Finished the game 72-64. It was close at different points throughout. Houston found themselves down at halftime at different points in the second half. But culture wins out. Big-time game and a big-time players. Houston was 22-1 in the conference this year after this game. Undefeated on the road. Have been trailing at the end of regulation since the first Saturday of the season. Really just a tremendous, a big bow on a tremendous season for the Cougs. Now, as I look at this, obviously we're going to talk a lot about this game in particular. I think people want to talk about things going on and on and on. And we're here each and every day, right? So we're going to talk about some of this today. Someone's getting ready for Monday and moving on into the big dance next weekend. Man, 72-64. And reflecting on just this game in particular, Emanuel Sharp early hit a big three at very first possession of the game, hit a couple other ones in the first half. He kind of cooled off. I think it was kind of forced the issue a couple times down the stretch, but they can fix that in film. LJ Cryer never really found his offensive side of the game, but I thought he did a pretty good job defensively. Again, I think that's probably where he's grown the most this last 2 years as a Houston Cougar. Big game out of Jojo Tugler defensively. Again, not as much offensively. He did get his 5 fouls and get out of there. Javier Francis, huge moments throughout on both ends. None bigger than the exclamation point dunk that kind of iced the game in a scramble situation. Really happy for him, and I tweeted that out, texted a few guys that, but you got to remember Javier. This guy entered the year thinking he was starting for the number one team in the conference, a top 5 team in America, and got benched early in the season and accepted this whole new role as a energy bench big, completely changed what he's asked to do. And he accepted it in stride, ran with it, and made one of the biggest offensive plays and one of the biggest games this program has seen in a long time. I understand that we should get expecting these things from Houston, the Houston culture, and so on. But what Javier did in that moment was really, really impressive for a guy that in a lot of other programs and a lot of other cultures folded up and quit back in December. That was never going to happen here with him, with this program. But that would have been something you'd have heard about at, I'm not going to name other programs as in about them, but a lot of other places close by and far away, right? And instead, he makes the big game winning or game sealing kind of play. They don't win this game, though, without number 7. Milos Uzan, the point guard, 25 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, no turnovers. He did have 4 fouls. It did get dicey there for a stretch. But when it was time to take over the game and put people in his backpack, this was a Milos Uzan game. And as much fun as the season has been, where at different points we found that backpack guy, I keep calling it, at different moments, right? It's been LJ Cryer a couple different times, Iowa State and stuff like that. It's been Juwan Roberts a couple different times. It's been E-Man a couple times in this tournament. It's been Milos Uzan. We're up at Texas Tech. It's Milos Uzan today. Finished the career high 25 again, and it was dicing people up on the bounce at the rim. If they sag too far off of him, to keep between him and the rim, he hit a couple pull-up threes off the bounce as well. 4 of 6 from 3 from Milos. I mean, at that point, I don't know how you guard him. And I'm not saying he's Jamal Shead. No one is. I mean, Jamal Shead's not Latiki. Everyone's different, right? But he was definitely, Milos that is, was definitely the guy Houston needed on Saturday night when they needed him the most. Remember back, I'm not going to pull up comments and throw people out there, but back when Houston lost to Auburn and he was a plus 14 but fouled out of the game, but he wasn't really scoring a whole lot. We were like, who is this guy? What's he going to do for us? How does he fit in here? This is how he fits in here, right? He wins the Big 12 tournament championship game in remarkable fashion. 25 points, getting to the rim, finding Xavier Francis for the lob to kind of take the top off from a crowd perspective. All around big time victory. I'm trying to make sure I got the names right. We got a couple guys in the all-tournament team as well. I think I saw Duarte posted first, so I want to make sure I give him credit as the reporter I saw on it first. But they had Milos, Emanuel, and LJ, the full starting backcourt as the first team on all Big 12 tournament team. For what it's worth, those three guys outscored BYU when they played them yesterday. I think that makes a ton of sense. They also each had different moments in this run here where like it was their turn to take over the game, especially with J1 Roberts being out. We'll talk more about J1 at the end. I don't mean to say we won't mention his name because he didn't play. That doesn't seem fair, the contributions he made here. But man, oh man, we got comments flying in. A lot of people here today. Let's see what we got here. Dubs. On to the big dance, Big 12 champs, let's go. They got me crying. We just ran through the league in our first 2 years. They said we couldn't do it, and here we are. I want to stress that, and I understand the emotion of that a lot because, frankly, I don't weigh the tournament as heavy, so I might not have been quite as invested as that. But I do understand the emotion about the fact that this team came through and last year went 15-3 in the regular season in the Big 12. I guess when you factor in the conference tournament, they went 17-4. This year, if you factor in the tournament, they're 22-1. I'm not great at math, but I think that's 39-5 in their first 2 years in the Big 12 conference. When you had coaches that were at that time in the conference, Bob Huggins, acting like Houston was in for a world of hurt. And the only hurt that seems to happen has been what Houston's done to the rest of the league. Way to go, Francis. Go Cougs. Awesome win. Once again, haters, useless words fall on deaf ears. Culture wins out. The job is clearly nowhere near finished. I think that's probably an important perspective for like later. Right now, let's enjoy it. TS7791. I got that. Let's enjoy it a little bit. This team's just blue collar and wins day in, day out. Sharp and Milos are incredible, but such great team effort. Great team effort. Won this game with semis without J1. Imagine him back healthy in the lineup. Shout out to Uzan for improving over the season. And once again, to the bench, Francis Wilson being big. I would also include Terrance Arceneaux's defense as being big. He didn't get to play off the bench because of the injury or whatever. But anyway, I'll do it for you. Texas would have quit. Hey, that might be one of those nearby teams I said. All right, chill out. Yes, they look like a team that might have quit a few times. There's other teams too. They're just nearby. I think that team in Chapel Hill might have as well, but don't tell my buddy Isaac I said that. Milos' growth has been something cool to watch this season. Really love how Milos has settled in with everything, not forcing anything while being aggressive at the right time. I think that's the interesting film study thing about watching Milos this season, to get ready to watch him. I don't know what his to me, he's either a Cougar or a pro. So I think he's leaving for something else, obviously. But if he plays like that, 25-4-4 with no turnovers, a couple of important tournament games, he might really be drafted. He's 6'4". He's long. He's tough. He's aggressive. I don't know what his pro prospects are like. I'm DMing him back and forth, texting with a couple guys that do the draft analyst thing like year round, and they're really high on him, but they're kind of draft nerdy types. I'm trying to, what's the rest of the country think, what the actual GMs think and stuff like that. Only takes one, obviously, but at this moment, I'm not worried about all that. Not forcing anything, though, I think is like timing up the aggression. That's where that'll all be really, really interesting. I bring that up because another comment I hadn't read out loud, I guess, though, is might be looking for an extra point guard next with Uzan's NBA stock going through the roof. I don't have any confirmation that Houston's reached out to other guards. I have had guards already in the transfer portal, though, that are pretty impressive resume kind of guys. Like, hey, if a spot opens up, I'd love it. And that kind of, I think that is a buzzing thing. Playing guard for Sampson and company in this program has proven to be a way to get to the NBA, whether you're Ladiki, whether you're Galen playing in that G League fringe, kind of back and forth bouncing, or Marcus and Jamal and Quentin, like Milos is next. Kingston comes after that. Who knows what the growth of Cordell and Eman and like where those guys end up. right? Like the Mercy, I mean, electric score. These could all unfold at different points. Lots of things to enjoy with that. And I think the guard position is one that Houston may turn over some. Who knows? But honestly, I don't think I'm ever worried about it as long as Sampson and company are in charge. Now, I will say I want to talk some more about this tournament, this game, this conference, and so on. But today is a full-length show, and as we're going about a full-length show, I will say today's show is brought to you, where's my number there, by Supply House. You can get the supplies you need for this made skilled trades at Supply House, whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work. Electrocution feels like exactly what Houston does some of these teams. Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. They're easy to use. The website is packed with helpful resources and the latest products info to help you get the job done right. Plus, a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands. You find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? The Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. You always talk to a real person, which is really important when you're like me and you don't even know what help you need. They can help you find that as well. But for trade pros with extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage of this over at Supply House, and now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Use promo code SH5. That's SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Park Ranger, the Locked On Coogs here, talking about Houston as a Big 12 champion outright in the tournament with a big-time championship game win, 72-64. I really could talk a lot about that game from a single game perspective. I thought the switch at halftime to putting Emanuel as the primary defender on Caleb Love was brilliant. Great move by the coaching staff there because Caleb wanted to get in the paint. He was having a lot more success driving. Emanuel was both long but also really strong, able to kind of put a body in front of him along the way there. Houston also found a way to kind of get Veesaar in space and wear him out. He played 33 minutes off the bench, the big guy there at Arizona. And Houston kind of punished them for playing him that much. He got his fourth foul. And well, he did, I guess, Houston fouled Jojo Tugler out, right? Obviously, that didn't go their way either. I thought Houston spending him on defense made him less effective on offense and ultimately helped play the Houston Cougars' favor, even if it wasn't the most efficient offense every single time to attack the giant guy, right? On their own offense, I thought it was interesting that LJ Cryer had just 9 points, just 1 of 4 from 3, just 3 of 10 from the field. Not his best day, right? Again, a guy I think very highly of. I think of winning as the point of playing. Then it's hard to discredit anything that the guy who's won the conference at everywhere he's been has, hard to discredit what he's done. I will say, though, that I was impressed by the way that he did not seem to let a bad shooting day get to him between the ears. And he played great defense on the other end against guys like Carter Bryant. Carter, I guess, finished with 6 points. So Emanuel kind of won that matchup. And Carter came off the bench. But on the whole, I don't know that it was that visible with like Anthony Deliorso only playing 5 minutes. It feels kind of like the Temple team a few years ago where they're high scores, both bench guys, with how much they brought guys off the bench to play with Caleb in this. But Cryer played great defense. He chose his spots, and I thought he still stuck to taking good shots while he wasn't shooting it well. I don't know what your basketball background is, but scorers, and this, I wasn't a scorer myself. I was more of an assist guy. But scorers tend to, when the shots aren't falling, if they get an open look for half a second, they want to pull it just see one go in, or they recklessly attack the rim to just get to the foul line or whatever to kind of get some free throws up. And LJ played much more even than that. Didn't have any turnovers or erratic losing of the ball. He like I said, he got to the foul line just the one time. Like he really let the game come to him, and if ever was going to. It wasn't his turn to score today, and he just let that happen. That takes a growth and maturity that a veteran guy like LJ has. And again, that's a cultural piece too, understanding whose moment, when it's yours, when it's not, etc. Today started off as E-Mans and finished the Miloses, and you had a couple of JVR and Malik Wilson moments there in between. I mean, that's really kind of how this went. And credit to the guys for finding their way in that one. I talked about after each of the first two rounds of this tournament that I thought E-Man was playing angry. And while he did try to take over the game a couple times in the second half and the shots weren't falling for him, I think that playing angry has really, really worked for him. Now, 17 points in the Arizona game, the championship game, was actually his lowest of the tournament. He had 19 against Colorado and 26 against BYU, gets named the tournament's most outstanding player. I would also point out that defensively, he had pretty tough matchups in each one of those and rose to the challenge. And I really think that this is a response, this postseason run that he is not done with yet, is a response to being left off of the first three teams for all Big 12, right? I don't have statistics in front of me. I'd have to go look it up. I can do some digging before Monday morning. But it's very, very clear that a lot of the times the top handful of guys make first team, maybe the second best player on the team makes second team. You very rarely have two guys make first team and two. Like Houston's other four guys and starters all made first, second, or third team. That's signal to the dominance that they had. And Emanuel kind of functionally got left out of making all those teams. He played hurt. I mean, he didn't play as well as he could have in different points of the year. He also was hurt, and that's had to miss a week, I think, at one point, and 2 games at a different point, and whatever, right? Anyway, that is all to say that he was on a mission in this tournament to make sure that people remembered who he was and what he does in the Big 12. The Big 12 is Houston's conference, or as Oscar here points out, I'm going to pull this one up, the Big 12 really is the Cougs' house. And it's funny how quickly that happens, man. They play a regular season and a conference championship tournament. Houston has won both regular season titles, got to the conference championship game in the tournament the first year, and won the tournament championship game in the second year. I teach history, not math, but that is 4 opportunities to claim you won the conference, and Houston has done 3 of them outright. I think that's pretty dominant, and I don't know what else you could really, really say. Now, I want to spend some time in a moment talking about the dance and J1 and stuff like that, and I'll wrap it there because I want to, frankly, go enjoy the win. I want to put some thoughts together about what March Madness could look like based on what regions they go to and stuff like that. But before we get to all that in the last segment and everything, enjoying this win, because I hope you're enjoying it with us as well. Today's show is brought to you by our buddies over at wherever it is here, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Got to make sure to find the right one for tonight. March Madness is here. FanDuel's giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers get $200 back in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. That's $200 extra bucks on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories. Who's coming down the net? You get in on the action live while it's happening. FanDuel app is super easy to use. You get paid instantly, and there's no waiting around. It's FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Park Ranger here is in the Locked On Coogs live reaction to a 72-64 victory over the Arizona Wildcats, the Big 12 Conference Championship tournament game. Man, oh man, it is fun to watch this team play. Brian Lloyd chimes in here. That's how great teams face adversity when shorthanded. The next man up steps in and sees his opportunity, and the culture keeps winning. Amazing group of men. Go Cougs. What I love about this comment from Brian here is that I think it's probably targeting what happened with Jawan Roberts going down with an ankle injury against Colorado, and Houston managing to find ways to win this game, this tournament without him. You fall onto LJ Cryer, you fall onto Emanuel Sharp. In this game, you fell to Milos Uzan. Javier Francis steps up big defensively. Jojo Tugler has 3 blocks. I mean, really impressive outings from your bigs against a very big Arizona team on Saturday night for sure. I also think the idea of next man up could interestingly be a description for this entire season. And we're hoping for a lot more basketball left. I don't mean to put, the season in the ground just yet, but I do think that like coming off of last year, the story last year was Jamal, right? And rightfully so. The guy was amazing, best player, and I guess he got awarded best player in the Big 12 for my money as best player in America, but don't need to relitigate that. And instead, when it was next man up all season this year, it was Milos here, LJ there, Jawan there, Emanuel here, Malik at Fog Allen. It was someone different every single time. That kind of feels like it's the same exact mantra, right? First year in the Big 12 was about how does Jamal Shead carry this team and program. Year 2 in the Big 12 has been about like, hey, it doesn't really matter. We're just going to figure out who it is that night and go with it, right? And that feels like the same kind of thing. And frankly, it feels easier to get to what Brian's talking about when he says about facing adversity shorthanded and going to the next man up, because it's been someone different every couple of nights, right? And so it's not weird to win a game where Jawan isn't playing, because you've won games where he didn't play well, right? You didn't have to have him playing well to win games before. And for what it's worth, and DMing and texting and talking to some people, it sounds like the ankle injury is not that crazy for Jawan Roberts. He was out warming up before the game, even though he was ruled out of the game the day before. I think that was really more just to kind of get some routine and get on it a little bit, kind of get some movement. It's ankles, like the way he rolled, are the kind of thing that are painful. But I wonder if this had been March Madness, if he'd have finished the Colorado game, for being really honest. He's in a boot right now to speed up recovery. Boots help speed up recovery on ankle injuries because of the way they take support off of the main ligaments. But on the whole, I would point to that. I feel like, honestly, he probably sat out a lot of this as precautionary kind of stuff, and ultimately is getting ready for whatever Houston does on, I think they're probably playing Thursday, but we'll see. And frankly, Houston was able to survive and weather the storm without him. So that speaks pretty highly to them as well. Now, I haven't talked to Jawan. I think other people that do Houston Cougars stuff may be closer to him. And so we'll see when he publicly states things about his own return, or John Houston or somebody like that. But I imagine if this were a Sweet 16 kind of weekend and not a Big 12 championship tournament kind of weekend, he'd have never left he might have come off the floor to get retaped, but he'd have never left the floor for extended periods of time. The guy played through so much pain a year ago. I mean, remember like the knees being drained, the hand in a soft cast, all that kind of stuff. It's hard for me to like see that ankle roll and be like, that's going to take him out for multiple days and weeks. I think this is more precautionary, getting healthy for the games that are about to be really, really important in a few days. Now, I say that to say that I did like seeing the 4-guard lineup without him, right? It was both Terrance and Malik at different points playing that 4th guard that has to cover big sometimes. And frankly, you kind of played Arizona into needing to play a 4th guy, a perimeter guy of their own, with how you sped them up. But on the whole, having Terrance, Malik, someone versatile at that spot was really, really important to me, and being able to show that you can do that. Those two combined for 9 rebounds. Malik had 9 points, and Terrance had a couple as well to get over the 10-point mark from that position, so to speak. And again, the 9 rebounds from the two combined, I think also speaks volumes to what those guys do. Malik had a steal as well. That was really important throughout this. And this is someone, TI7791. Sorry, I don't mean to chuckle, but I'm going to chuckle. I got to show. He says, "You have been having calmer confidence in this team lately. Literally took a work a day during this game. That's how confident I am in them." So, that's great. John Blast points out too that he remembers how he used to get a lot more nervous, play big games. Now you just know we're going to get it done. Confidence. I still get a little nervous, like right before tip-off goes, but I do think, having played in some of these this year, I think truthfully I was like really nervous before like Auburn and Alabama, stuff like that, started the year, and those games didn't go very well and didn't help me with my nerves, but didn't know how it was going to look this year. I was confident Kelvin could figure something out, but how it was going to look or whatever. I think now we have a lot better idea of how it's going to look. But back to the 4-guard lineup before I started chuckling at that comment, I do think that the 4-guard lineup is going to become crucial in some Sweet 16 feeling kind of game. Now, it was reported by Joseph Duarte on Saturday that he has heard that Houston put in, that if it's up to their preference, I want to play out west. I'm thinking about that from two perspectives, kind of three. The kind of third being that if I'm trying to get to these things, that's like the most expensive spot to go. San Francisco at Oracle, NBA Arena, top-end facility, brand new, roughly a couple years old and all that, right? Great place to go play. Also know that just because they've reached out to me a couple of times, like the Bay Area Alumni Association is really strong. And so I think that there'll be a decent amount of Houston Cougars showing up. It's also a place that's easy to get to as far as travel goes. There are planes in and out of the Bay Area and multiple airports and all that, right? It is expensive as heck to get out there, and that's a little frustrating on this guy with 3 jobs' perspective. That's okay. The other thing I'll say, though, is that they went west. The real 2 reasons they go west, right, is first, you probably avoid a lot of the bloodbath that could be the southern region, right? With both the Big 12 and SEC being so good this year, the SEC being a entirely southern conference, you're probably going to have a lot of those teams choose to go south and stay home. SEC plays in Atlanta all the time for all kinds of different sporting events. Big Atlanta, like SEC hub of schools, right? A lot of alumni there. So you're going to see a lot of them try and force their way into the South region if it's up to them at all. Again, it's not up to every seed or anything. That's the top couple, right? So you get to pick. So you might, not have to play as many of those Floridas, Tennessees, Auburn, Alabama's. I think Auburn will be the number 1 overall and get the number 1 in the South, but we'll see. Right. The other thing is that it's not just that those are good regions as far as that goes. I feel like the West is probably the weakest. There's no more Pac-12, right? The WCC and WAC may put a couple teams in this thing, which may mean you get some of the smaller programs in as your 10, 11, 12, 13s. We'll see. And we know from having been one of those that you can upset guys, obviously, from that spot, but it's a little bit different task to ask of someone. Houston asking for the West Coast, I think, is both of those. The other thing I'll think as well is that, when you look at the Midwest, you probably got to play a couple Big Ten players across the way there, and stylistically that could give you problems. Not in this game, but in the first game you saw what the size of Arizona did to you, right? And Texas Tech, and they've had their size and that kind of stuff. I wonder how many Big 12 teams want to go west. They won't let all of them go, where you get to put in your preference and they work with it from there. But as a team with I think it's safe to say now a number 1 seed, Houston will probably get the West, because I'd imagine Auburn gets the South. I imagine Duke gets the East. That's up in Newark. And then that'll leave Houston kind of in that third area, gets to pick where they want to go, and they're getting the heck out of Dodge going out west. Now, I guess first round, it could be Denver, it could be Wichita State. Those are kind of the closest options. And so I'd imagine Houston wants to pick somewhere and get some people there easily. Houston's had plenty of fans go to Wichita State for back when they played the Shockers in American Athletic Play. Got plenty of people up in Kansas right now for this. So I imagine that's important. Denver, Colorado is not a horrible get to travel to either. So we'll see where that first weekend goes. Ultimately, though, you're thinking that easiest path to San Antonio, if you think it's going to be out in the West, you take it and think hey, airport to airport, Houston to San Fran. People did that for Rockets Warriors for a lot of years. I think we can make that work, right? And so we'll see how that goes. Now, that's just based on Duarte reporting that the West is their preference. And so we'll see how that goes and where they end up landing tomorrow night. Full disclosure, with some Locked On stuff got going on and some other things got going on, I'll probably go with a short right after the bracket is announced, maybe even a couple minutes here just about where they're fitting into the seeding and what that first weekend looks like, and then a full-length episode for Monday morning about more of a bracket breakdown. When I do a bracket breakdown, I want to look at who fits where and who's what seed and who your 5-12 is. And I want to study that a little bit. And so doing that immediately live right after is going to be kind of frantic. But if I can get you short, talk about that first weekend, and then we'll get out with a full episode on Monday morning for breaking down what it looks like for the Cougs. Be here all week long. Spring practice, starting for football for whatever it's worth this week as well, I think. Lots of things going on with the Houston Cougars that just keep on keeping on as they win the Big 12, dominant fashion, third Big 12 basketball title in 4 opportunities between regular season and tournament play. Just cannot say enough. how much Houston came into the Big 12 and has taken the whole thing over. I'm the Locked On Coogs Park Ranger. Locked On Coogs, a primary of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day. If you need a second listen this evening, Leaf Tulane is going to be over on Locked On College Basketball. They've been doing Saturday night, late night breakdowns, and he's got a lot to talk about, but I can almost guarantee Houston's going to take up a chunk of that show as well. So go check him out later this evening. And go Cougs, folks. Go freaking Cougs, Big 12 champs.